All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Um, thank you for being here. We will start with roll call. We have almost everyone here. All right, Alameda County, I believe Supervisor Boss is on her way. Contra Costa County.
Here.
City of Berkeley. Wait. 2, 3, 4. Okay. City of El Cerrito.
Here.
City of Hercules.
Here.
City of Oakland, here. City of Pinole.
Here.
City of Richmond.
Here.
Kensington Police Protection and Community Service District.
Oh, that doesn't exist anymore. We're the Kensington Community Service District, KCSD, and we're here.
We'll amend that. Awesome. Thank you. Item 2, approve minutes of the meeting on March 25th. This is in your agenda packet. There's any questions, go ahead. If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the minutes.
All right. We can do a general voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? All right. Item 2, approval of the minutes pass. Item 3, chair's report. Well, good morning, everyone. Really excited to be here. Thank you for entrusting me with chairing the East Bay Wildfire Coalition of Governments for the next year. Thank you so much to Supervisor Joya for his leadership over the past year and for his tutelage when I served as vice chair for this body. I'm really excited to as we enter our 3rd year into existence, hone in on some actionable items. I think we've made immense progress for a small and mighty body of now 9 regional governments. And I think that we can continue to build on that progress by really honing in on our communication strategy and getting the word out about Zone 0, defensible space, and what homeowners and communities can do to voluntarily protect and defend their homes. I'm also excited to continue our legislative agenda and continue to be an increasingly strong voice with our state legislators as well as regional bodies for significant measures. And finally, I'm excited for this body to share best practices. Our cities and counties are different and similar at the same time, and we can learn from each other. Very grateful to our various fire departments and fire districts that have been collaborating on the issue of wildfire for many decades now and making incredible headways. And I hope that us as elected officials representing governments can do the same when it comes to standardizing some policies, practices, and really thinking about best practices and lessons. So today's meeting, we have a number of items related to these priorities, or legislative strategy or communication strategy. But I wanted to start off, and this would be moving to item 4, a discussion. Sometimes in our meetings, we haven't always had an opportunity for members to discuss priorities that they see in their own jurisdictions. So I wanted to open it up. We can go in order. Anyone can raise their hand and just go ahead and start the conversation. East Bay Wildfire Coalition, per our motto, we have a number of core priorities, but today I just wanted to open the floor to folks to talk about at least one issue that you see your communities really care about wildfire prevention. This could be anything from homeowners insurance to Zone 0 to evacuation routes to vegetation management, whatever you'd like to bring to the table as an issue in your district. And just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. For us in Hercules, given our proximity to the water and just historically most of the housing in Hercules being built more inland, for us, it's evacuation. So when we've kind of imagined what that major wildfire would look like, it would be coming from the Martinez area, coming through that Brioni sort of route, Fernandez Ranch, and then really just making it difficult for folks to get out. I mean, if you were to drive, say, toward Refugio Valley, on Refugio Valley Road, going to Hannah Ranch, you notice there's more and more cars, which means more and more slower opportunities to get out. So for us, again, it's the evacuations that we're most concerned about.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have the same issue in Kensington, but one difference is that we just have these really narrow, winding roads that follow the contours of the hills, and people are going to need to go down the hill, but the roads don't generally go that way. So some things that we've been working on, we've worked with the county to declare some streets where there will be restricted parking on red flag days, and we've got 3 streets that we are going to be, we're going to have a resolution on that at our meeting this month. Another thing we have that's available to us, we have these walking paths that actually do go down the hill. They'd be ideal as evacuation routes. There's been a concern about calling them evacuation routes because of potential liability and maybe ADA issues. So what I like to tell people is they're not evacuation routes. And Berkeley does call their paths evacuation routes. If somebody is unable to drive their car out, they're going to want to use these things. So we've gotten public ownership of 3 of our paths. We actually don't have public ownership of 7 others, and we're working on achieving that because we just think there's a number of reasons why we want these paths, but evacuation in my mind is certainly one of them.
Thank you.
As for Pinole, we have a lot of property that needs weed abatement and vegetation management. Our biggest concern is that we're in a valley. We have Pinole Valley Road, and part of Pinole Valley Road is right adjacent to the high fire severity zone. It was previously designated as the very high fire severity zone, but it's been the designation has been changed, but it's still a concern for residents. There are ways to get around, but it involves going through, neighborhoods. And it's not obvious to a lot of our residents, the alternate routes to get out. So I think that's an important issue for Pinole.
Thank you. Well, I'll mention Oakland. I think one of our biggest concerns is vegetation management. We have hundreds and hundreds of acres of parklands with dead and dying trees, and things that the city has never really been able to fund on our own. And the fuel for fire that exists here in these parks, in public right of ways, is something that we definitely lack the funding to meaningfully address. Yes, there's absolutely a lot of work to be done on the homeowner side, but the vast stretches of land with dead and drying vegetation continues to be but it continues to be a serious concern in our across our hills.
My turn. I'm Sohaila Bano with City of Richmond. We're having an evacuation drill on May 30th. It's going to be interesting. Community warning system has asked for registration. So far, short of 300 people have registered for evacuation. Weed management is an issue, but one concern we have is actually community warning system. Will everyone receive an emergency alert in time? That's very important. Right now, the county is conducting an assessment of community warning system. I'm grateful to Supervisor John Joya. Thanks to him, I will be included. I'm the one who wrote to civil grand jury, triggered the whole assessment, and I was excluded, which was very concerning to me and to the community. But Supervisor Joya made sure I will be included. I will be reporting to it. I think everyone in Contra Costa County should follow up the assessment. The county is spending $460,000 on community warning system assessment, and we hope something good comes out of it. There are so many questions we have, like why doesn't it go by zone? It goes by registration. Last time there was no registration. We're going to have a Zoom meeting with them in June to answer some of the questions, but we'll see. We'll have some fresh data on Saturday to see how long it takes for people to receive the emergency alerts, and I'll keep you posted about it.
Thank you. Well, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't just acknowledge in Berkeley, we're having some pretty bad budgeting problems. This is sort of not the concern of this board, but we are we're facing some really serious budget cuts to our fire department. It's really concerning, but that's our problem. Regarding more regional issues, I think one of the biggest issues I've heard over and over again is the sort of financial burden of home hardening has become a really big issue. Our fire department's doing a really good job getting the word out. We have really good buy-in from our residents, but it's just incredibly expensive to do this on some of these homes. And we really we need to find a source of funding. Some kind of, we've applied for grants and doing best we can, but it's a really big challenge that we're facing currently. I do want to set the record straight about something that was mentioned earlier. Our paths are actually not, we don't identify those as evacuation routes. So we have the same dynamics. Our fire department does not recommend them, and they weren't identified as evacuation routes in our evacuation study, just to clarify. Thanks.
Thank you. In El Cerrito, we have much the same issues about evacuation and vegetation management. But for us, our hillside natural area is our biggest asset and our biggest concern. It's of over 107 acres. It's smack in the middle of El Cerrito, so it's surrounded by homes, and the terrain is very steep. So vegetation management, we've been working for grants to address some of it, but we have 2 very large eucalyptus stands. It's hard to keep maintained all the time. So in addition to all the sort of resident issues, this is our city issue. And it's, within 2,500 feet of like the regional park, Tilden, Wildcat Canyon Park, and anything that might happen on that side this is a great place for Embercast to really start a fire in El Cerrito. So we're working on that.
Since we are sort of a multi-agency group, I wanted to highlight sort of a couple things Rodney mentioned, because it shows how 2 agencies can overcome sort of the boundaries, because the issue of the red flag parking day pilot we're doing, these are county unincorporated area streets where the Public Works and Board of Supervisors passes resolutions, but Kensington has their own police and fire agency. So working together and really following the lead of the desire of the Kensington Fire Chief and the Kensington Community Services Board, we worked out what's a little different than most. Rather than us identifying the streets, we're doing a resolution that really gives the power to Kensington Fire to designate which streets should be no parking during red flag days, and they have to be in either the very high, or moderate fire severity zones. And then Kensington Fire or the National Weather Service declares when they are red flag days, and then does the enforcement. So we do the designation. We put up the signs. We pass the resolution authorizing them. So it's, I think, an example of how we can work together. And the same with the paths. Those were paths which were under no ownership when that community was built 100 years ago. The developer offered a whole series of paths throughout Kensington to the county. And 100 years ago, it wasn't accepted for dedication by the county because it didn't meet certain standards. So we worked now, several years to develop a program, and county took on ownership of 3, transferred them to Kensington. So now, and in the study, we specifically didn't declare them evacuation, because you would have then had to do a lot more improvement to them, money that we didn't have, right? So, but they essentially can be used as evacuation, but also can be used for recreation and walking. And so, and Rodney's leadership with the Pathfinders. So I think 2 examples of how agencies can work together to achieve these kinds of goals.
I hope that there's good coordination with our Firewise, and maybe some of the streets that we're working on can be connected.
Because El Cerrito has some streets too. Yeah. These streets in Kensington are areas, and I forgot which ones they are, Rodney. They're above the Arlington.
they're like major arteries. Some are close to the Hilltop School, so we're very concerned about that. And we had the police, the fire chief. Our fire chief is the El Cerrito fire chief, was key to identifying these.
Supervisor Buss.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll just build on what folks shared. You know, for us in Alameda County, vegetation management is a huge issue. We have a great hand crew at AC Fire and hope to expand it as more opportunities arise. And then also share some of the feedback around supporting our schools around evacuation plans. And I also wanted to mention that our office held a really successful preparedness fair in partnership with AC Fire, OFD. Our Oakland and Berkeley Fire Safe Councils were very involved. I think we had about 30 organizations that were able to reach out to a couple hundred people who came out on an early Saturday to get resources and tools. And one of the things that we heard is that there's interest in helping folks in, you know, in the flat parts of our county, in addition to the hills, become more aware of and educated on wildfire risks and prevention and preparedness in general. And so I think through that fair, we're recognizing that folks are really hungry in terms of learning about various risks, whether it's wildfire, the smoke that will impact our area, potential tsunamis due to climate change. I mean, there's a host of risks in addition to the traditional earthquakes that people are aware of. And across our county, no matter where folks live, they're hungry for tools and tips to be prepared and also to connect with their neighbors. Thank you.
Awesome. I think that's everyone. So it seems very much a theme is evacuation routes, red flag days, vegetation management. So this is helpful as we think about what items we want to bring forward to future meetings. If any members have ideas for presentations that they want to bring a special speaker to, whether that's from their city or regional body they work with, please let us know. I think evacuation routes is something that we can definitely share best practices and coordinate and collaborate. John? Well, actually, before you speak very quickly, I forgot in our chair's report to give a shout out and a thank you to everyone involved in the East Bay Wildfire Coalition that's not just currently an elected. Thank you so much to John Kaufman and Susan Weingraf, our former chair and former Berkeley City Council member, for all the work that you're putting in. They'll be leading out on several of the presentations today. And if we don't mind, if any of the fire chief or assistant chiefs are in the room, do you mind just standing up and letting us know your jurisdiction? I forgot to do that in the beginning.
I failed to announce, we just appointed him fire chief. So he was the assistant fire chief. He's been in our department a long time, worked a lot with Chief Burchard. So he is now our fire chief. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Right.
Thank you. One item that I want to bring as if anyone has initial thoughts, because we will not be meeting next month before 4th of July, is if anyone has comments about how their cities are addressing 4th of July fireworks. So in Oakland, I mean, it continues to be an issue, but a couple of years ago, Chief Covington and others closed off Grizzly Peak, which was a big area for fireworks, for watching viewing activities, which has definitely been helpful in at least the high fire zone to curb fireworks. But would love to hear any member comments on that. Please go ahead.
I know we've had some discussions with the prior chief, and I know, Aaron, you're familiar with those, about an effort really, so it's not city by city, but how do we have, our fire district covers 2/3 of the county, and then there's other fire districts and cities with fire departments, of having the fire chiefs take on this issue more broadly to try to strengthen, because there's a patchwork of ordinances, right? Some have fines that are more than others, of how to bring together the fire chiefs as sort of the focal point to how to address this issue. So discussion, and I think we're going to continue that. Obviously, each city's approached it a little differently, but having the fire chiefs, because it's a fire hazard in addition to public safety. So we're working on trying to develop some type of larger model ordinance that would be countywide, that would have similar types of fines. And fireworks are illegal, right? People do it despite that. There was an effort, was it last year? And I know it was continued, where the sheriff and the fire chief sort of did, working with local cities, worked on a big public education campaign. And I think that will continue. I always hear, you have to tell people they're illegal. The reality is, the people doing this know they're illegal. They're doing it anyway. So it's really about the enforcement issue, and how do we make fines and penalties and enforcement stronger. And so the belief was working through a lot of the fire agencies collectively.
Thank you.
So I introduced an item to have LED shows for the city to promote the culture. It didn't pass, obviously. And this morning, the city manager sent me the news about that drones crashing in Sydney during a show. She's opposing it. But in terms of the fireworks, last year, some residents approached me and said they started a grassroots campaign, Stop Illegal Fireworks, and asked the city to help, asked me to have the city help. So I put them in touch with different departments. I'm glad to say our public works helped with printing signs, and fire department helped. It had some success, not to a great level. It's being continued, and we just introduced, it's not an ordinance yet. We asked the city administration to work on ordinance to increase fines to $1,000, similar to city of San Pablo. I'll report to you how our 4th of July goes this year. But the point is, when it is being brought up with residents at grassroots, I hope it will be effective in collaboration with the city administration. I'm hopeful.
Thank you. Susan?
Just a point of clarification. Are we starting public comment for this item?
Have not. So
Okay.
we will wrap up member comments first, and then Susan and John, we will go to you right next.
This is about July 4th,
Oh, yes.
my comment. So yes,
We'll finish member comments,
Okay.
and then you, then John. Oh, someone had raised their hand. Okay.
We're still when we finish item 3, I think is what, 4, that's when they're going, right? We're all this has come under item 4, right? So, yeah.
Okay. If there are no other comments, Susan and John, please go.
Public
We
comment
can
on
start
item
public
4?
comment. Yes.
Yeah, in addition, I'm John Kaufman. I'm momentarily wearing my hat as president of the Claremont Canyon Conservancy. So I want to thank all the cities and counties for what they're doing locally. And I want to add that the Claremont Canyon Conservancy is also doing things as a private organization. We have raised some money in the community to supplement what the city of Oakland is doing on removing vegetation that is hazardous. And we will be working closely with the city to remove vegetation in Garber Park, which has a number of eucalyptus and other dangerous trees, some of which are close to evacuation routes. So we will be doing that work this fall and spending money that we've raised, working closely with the city of Oakland.
Thank you.
hi, Susan Wainwright, former chair of the EBWC. So in 2020, I actually did a council item requesting that all of the agencies involved in Grizzly Peak, and it's very complicated. There are several jurisdictions that are adjacent to Grizzly Peak: Berkeley, the University of California, Orinda, and the city of Oakland. And with the help of Joe DeVries, who at that time was city administrator, we convened a meeting of police and fire from all of those jurisdictions. And we met regularly to come up with a series of rules and regulations. And we used recycled eucalyptus trees to cordon off the view areas on Grizzly Peak, which attracts very bad behavior, not just on July 4th, but all year round. And this was an incredible example of coordinated efforts by many, many jurisdictions and many departments within those jurisdictions. Police was involved, public works was involved, fire was involved. Now I understand Joe DeVries is no longer in that position. He's been transferred to another position. I'm just hoping that whoever has replaced him will continue this effort because it's been very, very effective. And there's data, the crimes have been down, and we've had no fires on Grizzly on July 4th.
Thank you. Others for public comment on item 4? Okay.
I see no hands raised on Zoom either.
Okay, great. And sorry, I forgot to introduce Jared, who is my staff member, who is staffing this commission. We'll be taking notes. If you have questions, requests for future items, feel free to email Jared and myself. Well, great. This was a very helpful discussion about things we can potentially move forward with. Because our next meeting is after 4th of July, it would be great to schedule an item where folks share follow-ups of lessons of how things went, any new initiatives that came about, any successes, any failures. And from the Oakland and Berkeley side, we'll definitely coordinate on Grizzly Peak again, along with our chiefs. Last year was notable success there, even though other parts of Oakland did not, was potentially some of the worst. But we'll definitely follow up with that and have our cities do a joint presentation and share some lessons on that. Okay, moving to item 5, legislative update. So we have here Susan Weingraf, who will share an update on our body's legislative items. Last time we selected a couple of bills to author letters of support. There's obviously a lot going on. We also have Nicolo DeLuca from Townsend Public Affairs on Zoom from Sacramento, who will share, after Susan goes, an update on other wildfire-related bills, budget items, and anything else he wishes to as well. So Susan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chair. So at the meeting of March 25th, you all unanimously decided to support 3 bills that were in the legislature. SB 959, which was authored by Connolly. And this is actually not specifically a fire bill, but it has to do with how school districts get their compensation when students don't attend school. And basically what this bill would allow local fire agencies to decide on the imminence of a major safety hazard. And it would, if it's passed, it will take effect immediately as an urgency statute. It passed the Senate. And as far as I know, my last information is that it's moved into the Assembly. So it looks like it's going to pass. The second bill was SB 894 by Ben Allen, who, by the way, is running for insurance commissioner. And this law has already been ordered to a 3rd reading. It's in process, so it looks really good. And what this law does is establishes the California Wildfire Resilience Loan Program and would require the California Alternate Energy and Advanced Transportation Financing Authority to administer the program to provide financial assistance for projects and activities to reduce wildfire-related risks and losses, including home hardening and defensible space improvements. This bill was the closest to what we had identified as being our major priority. So this looks like it's in good shape. And Niccolo, if you have anything to add, let me know, because this is as of last week. Things are moving very quickly right now. The third bill was AB 1960 by Bennett, and it authorizes the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, which is CAL FIRE, to disperse funds appropriated for wildfire prevention grants to identified cohesive fire communities that partner with fire safe councils to use the money specifically in disadvantaged fire communities. And it's been approved by the Assembly 70-2, and it's in the Senate now. So all three of those bills look like they're in very good position to actually become law.
Thank you. And the coalition has offered letters of support on these, which will be delivered to the respective members shortly as well. Nicola, if you'd like to unmute and go ahead.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation. Susan, always good to follow up from your discussion because you're so thorough. So I'm just going to add 3 more bills, but a quick overview of where things stand right now. And I know many of you are very well versed with what happens up here in Sacramento. So where we are right now in this point in time is kind of threefold. Number one, on the Assembly, it's House of Origin deadline. The goal is for every bill to leave your House of Origin floor so you can move forward to the second house. The thought process right now is the Assembly will probably go late into Thursday night to clear the docket so they don't have to meet on Friday. And then the second fold is over in the Senate. They're also in House of Origin deadline, but it's a little bit easier just because they have a lower number of bills that they're discussing. And then the third portion of where things stand right now in Sacramento is May revise time. So as you all know, we need a budget in print by June 13th, and there needs to be some form of vote on it by June 15th. But of course, as you all are well versed, there will be many trailer bills, which is legislation that trails the massive budget bill, which really gives the details as to what programs are moving and how they're going to move. There is some rumors of potential state earmarks. There's some rumors of no state earmarks. Frankly, we won't know until probably July and into August as to where that stands. You all know that Senator Grayson and Assemblywoman Rebecca Bauer-Cahan put together a good budget ask of, I think it's like 15 million for the counties of Contra Costa and Alameda for various funding for programs. If you're not aware, I'm happy to send that letter to you all. And then just quickly flagging 3 other bills and then happy to answer any questions. And again, we could put this in writing. Susan will work through you on this. AB 2513, Assemblywoman Petrie Norris. It allows regional landscape block grants to go directly to regional entities to implement priority strategies. And also expands those grants to support fire prevention efforts in non-forest ecosystems. The second is AB 2043 from Assemblywoman Calderon, who, side note, she's been really, really good about authoring bills that we care about. She's really been a strong author on fire safety. This bill proposes it would establish a countering unmanned aircraft systems task force with the Office of Emergency Services to develop statewide drone threat response strategies and planning. And then the third is AB 2152 from Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez that authorizes qualifying essential local fire station projects to receive CEQA judicial streamlining for related environmental litigation. As you all know, there's never a CEQA exemption. Instead, it's the streamlining. So all the bills that Susan mentioned are still alive. All the bills that I mentioned are still alive. And by late Thursday, potentially early Friday, we'll have a sense of what the fire related legislation looks like, and happy to share any of these updates in writing. And that really kind of wraps it up on my end.
Thank you so much. And any update in writing that we get on these bills from Niccolo, we will share out to all the members. Really appreciate your update, Niccolo and Susan. These are definitely the timeline is very helpful, and I'm thrilled that the three that we had selected on prioritizing last time are in fact moving forward. Colleagues, questions, comments? Sahila, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask to please update us as soon as bills pass. Don't wait for the next meeting. I assume that's the case. One thing I would like to bring up is that WUI areas traditionally are not disadvantaged communities. If you look at the maps, and there are the areas that need it. We have homeowners who own their homes, no mortgage, but they live on Social Security. They cannot afford even cutting down the junipers. We need to work at the state level to change the definition of disadvantaged community when it comes to wildfire safety assistance. I don't know how you can help us, Niccolo, how we can do something about it, but it's very urgent. I hear it from many residents. Disadvantaged community in WUI has a different definition. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bass.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Is there any additional advocacy that would be helpful as these bills move forward?
I will start, and Niccolo and Susan, please piggyback. I was going to bring this up on future agenda items, but I would like to form a legislative subcommittee. So if there are members who want to help advocate for state bills or also author state legislation, I think that's kind of the goal of last year and this year of writing all these letters of support, going to Sacramento. Myself and Susan went last year, and we're in the faces of several legislators and staff, was to let people know, hey, we're here. We have some concrete budget and legislative asks. We're writing letters of support now, but soon we're going to ask you for legislation or for amendments. And I think that is what we are definitely going to move into in the fall as the next step. So on that note, if you are interested in potentially serving on a legislative subcommittee, please let me and or Jared know. We are also planning an advocacy visit sometime in June on a Wednesday. So if you might, date is TBD, but if you are interested in potentially joining me to go to Sacramento with Niccolo, let me know as well if any elected wants to join in a half day of visits.
Councilwoman, as always, very, very well said. The only thing I will add is I do like the idea of how we define maybe a different phrase, but disadvantaged community when it comes to fire safety. It would definitely be something we'd want to work with our Southern California compatriots. So we get a kind of a bookend on that. And whereas the legislative session this year ends in August, and then of course the governor has until the end of September to take action. That time, September, is a really good time to start kind of putting pen to paper, circulating ideas to potential offices, authors, and committee staff. And so happy to work with the team. And of course, you, Susan, on if that's something we want to do. Because if so, I would start saying, let's start jumping on this come September. And then Supervisor Boss, just to follow up with what the councilwoman said, yeah, the more letters, better. So we're getting our name out, and then the more visits up here, the better. So they see the strength of the coalition and they understand all who's involved in everything that we care about.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think if there's going to be an effort to look at changing what the definition of disadvantaged communities are for wildfire areas, it needs to be limited to that and not have that definition apply like EnviroScreen, which is, a Cal Health screening tool that identifies disadvantaged communities from industrial pollution, income, those things. So those new criteria should not be applying to all the other types of state monies and grants that go to what are the traditional disadvantaged communities from industrial pollution, income, factors like that. So so I think that's what was intended when you said just for fire, because yes, how you may look at needs for fire are different than needs in other areas. Otherwise, I mean, with all due respect to Kensington and my district, I wouldn't want Kensington to be up on the list competing with North Richmond on environmental justice grants. So I just want to be clear about that. And I know there's obviously areas like that in Oakland as well. So I just want to be clear that's the intention. Right. When you, Nicola, when you said,
oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't know you were speaking to me.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, and it's focused on, as others have mentioned, that, right, you may have people who own a home who don't have other income to do the work needed for vegetation control, zone zero, things like that. But that doesn't place them then in an elevated position to compete for an environmental justice grant.
100% would definitely not want to compete with
Plus,
those.
that's not going to pass the legislature anyway. Legislators aren't going to do that. There's too many legislators that would fight that, but we don't want to be proposing that. Yeah.
Right. Any other comments before we move to public comment? Okay, and just to note, I know most of our representative is Senator Eric Geen, and many of us have relationships with him in his office. And most recently, when we met, he's expressed interest in supporting our work as well. So if any of his staff is listening, we will be sharing some ideas for potential legislation come August, hopefully. And yeah, that's it. We can move to public comment on item 5.
Thank you, everyone.
I see.
Sorry, Supervisor.
I just said Gabe from the senator's office is here listening.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just a word for public commenters. You'll have 2 minutes to speak, just letting you know.
30 seconds. Henry DeNiro, Berkeley Fire Safe Council. On this issue, CAL FIRE currently, their fuel removal grants currently say they favor vulnerable property owners, not underprivileged communities. So home by home and over 65 qualifies, low income and handicap. So this exists today on a property by property basis, and it's favors, it's not exclusive. So in the WUI, for example, Berkeley Fire is currently implementing a $1 million CAL FIRE grant to help vulnerable property owners do their defensible space in zone 0 and zone 1. And they have over 700 applications in the WUI. That's probably 50% of all the residents in the WUI in Berkeley. Most of them qualify because they're over 65. I'd recommend going in that direction for the wildfire. Do it on property owner basis, tier 1, tier 2. Start with the vulnerable, then go to the rest of them because the fire really doesn't care. That might be a way to get this passed.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay.
No Zoom speakers at this time.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't know if it was mentioned or not. SB 959 to close the schools on Red Flag Days if the fire chiefs allow. It was initiated by Senator Tim Grayson, supported by Jesse Argan, passed the Senate. Hopefully will pass the Assembly.
Yes, that was one of the 3 that Susan Wengraf mentioned.
Sorry, I was distracted at the time, but I was very excited about that. Everybody should see the movie The Lost Us.
Yes. And yeah, so basically that's the one that gives jurisdiction to fire departments, not only police departments, to declare a day of emergency so that kids don't have to go to school, but the state still pays regardless of that fire danger for serious red flag days. Okay, there's no vote needed on this item, so we will go to item 6, our financial update. We have a short update from John, and then I've brought forward an item that's in your packet as well for.
Right. That's next.
Regulations. Okay. Item 7, I think we're gonna talk more about that with the Department of Forestry. It is, yeah. But I think we'll focus on that for item 7.
Okay,
ahead,
on item 6, I'd like to call everyone's attention to 2 items in the agenda package. Page 25 is a list of the dues for each member agency. The 25 dues were invoiced last year, and the dues for this year have not yet been finally approved. So 2 different items. On 25, we have received dues, and I'm now looking at the report from our fiscal agent, which is on page 23. We have received funds from everyone except Alameda County and the cities of Hercules and Pinole. And if that's not correct, we need to make sure that that gets corrected. But that's according to the paperwork that we received from our fiscal agent. So my recommendation would be that those 3 agencies need to take care of that. And maybe our chair and vice chair could work on that and resolve that so that everyone is paid for 25. As to 26, I'm happy to report that the City of Oakland has already paid their dues, but invoices need to be sent out to the other agencies, and they need to be invoices rather than letters to make sure that the agencies are aware of that. And I would recommend that our chair work with our fiscal agent to make sure those invoices are sent out promptly so that the agencies can get their dues into their budgets and those funds can get paid. But we do need a resolution approving the year 2026 dues, which are listed on page 25 in the agenda package. So that resolution would be in order.
I don't see Kensington on there.
Yes, thank you for saying that. The issue of Kensington is our new organization, and it was not on our list of members at the time when the dues were set up. Kensington is a little unique in that while you are a separate organization, your fire service is provided by the city of El Cerrito. So I think
that's not true. That's not true.
We have a contract with them.
They pay for fire.
All right. So the dues for Kensington need to be established, and we had said in the past the baseline for dues, the minimum amount was $3,000. I don't know if that makes sense in the case of Kensington or not. So that would be an additional item that you guys need to resolve.
Okay, I can take that to my board.
Go ahead.
If you want to,
Yeah.
If you want to suggest, I think Rodeo Hercules, before they dropped off and got consolidated into Confire, was also at 3,000 and given similar size. My suggestion, maybe if we want to provide direction here today, would be to have Kensington dues be the $3,000. So given your size, given where Rodeo Hercules was, and that's the minimum that would be, it seems to me, a reasonable amount. So if we need to establish that here, so Rodney, you can go back to your board with a specific amount. So I'm willing to suggest that if that's going to be part of a motion to have that be 3,000, because we're setting the dues, and
yeah, I think I can do that, and I believe we would support that.
Okay, great. So then after finishing discussion, we'll entertain a motion to add Kensington with the in the 3,000 amount, and then we will work on invoices with our fiscal agents. And just as a follow-up, I know from the Oakland side, it took a whole lot from Chief Covington, myself, and others to actually get the amount paid. Sometimes emails just aren't enough. If an email or call from Vice Chair or myself could be helpful to you all without us stepping into your city business, please let us know. And I'm sure either of us would be happy to make a call or send an email to add a little pressure to some news. Okay. We will go to public comment.
So
on-
do
oh,
you want to
is it-
make a resolution on the dues so that's officially established for 26?
Yes, for in the next budget. Yes, in the next. But today we will vote on the 3,000 amount for Kensington, and then the next meeting we'll come back with a written full list.
I suggest we do it now because our city is doing its budget now. So
Yeah.
if
It
established
might make sense
boundaries,
to approve that dues amount now since it was listed on the agenda.
all cities
Oh, for the
finalize
rest,
their
for the
budgets
rest
in
of the
June.
cities. Oh, of course, yes. Then we can go ahead with a motion to approve this year 2, fiscal year 26, the amount listed with an amendment to add Kensington in the amount of
Can
3,000.
we clarify what those are? There's with the different sheets. I don't have page numbers on the sheets. Can we just pull up so we Chair just to clarify so we get
Yes.
Yes.
If you have the virtual packet, it's page 25 there.
Okay.
But if not, I'll just point it out.
Which were the same dues then as the got it. I see it. It's so it's in the right hand column.
And this was approved back in
Yes.
late 2024.
Got it. Okay.
But I didn't realize we didn't have a.
I'm glad to move these as the dues with the addition of Kensington at $3,000.
I'll second.
Did you have a comment or? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Chair, we need to do public comment before we have a vote on that.
So sorry. We will
You're
take,
just so efficient. You're so efficient.
we will take public comment on the item. Please go ahead.
I frankly don't remember how these numbers were established, but looking at them now,
Fairly and thoughtfully.
some of the numbers remain the same from 25 to 26, and some of them jump exponentially. And I don't really understand what the rationale was. For example, the city of Oakland jumped from 9,000 to 20,000.
There's a very clear explanation
Yeah,
for that
It
one.
is. Yes.
And then there are other jurisdictions like El Cerrito, which stayed at 3,000.
Mhm.
So, John, maybe you could explain how that happened.
Well, some of us were here then. I think you were. It was a negotiation. It was a discussion to be fair and thoughtful and to help ease it in. I know Oakland had some budget issues and wanted time to ease into it. And I think the idea was to start the first year to make it maybe more affordable. And there was a lot of discussion around those issues. And so I think it's a fair approach to try to keep it as reasonable as possible. I think so. I'm willing to support the same, but it wasn't magic, right? There wasn't a magic scientific formula. It was general and it did weigh size of the city, their responsibilities, whether they had fire responsibilities or not. So it was just a sort of a consensus, I guess, the best way to put it.
Okay, so looking forward, because we're midway through 2026 already, I guess the next task will be to come up with 2027 dues and figure out or negotiate what those might look like. And I would suggest a subcommittee to try to deal with that issue. Thank you.
Can I make a quick comment? So the city of Richmond's share jumped from 3,250 to 5,000, but the minimums of 3,000 have remained 3,000. Shall we increase them to at least 3,250?
Can I say, just add, I think the idea, I know Berkeley also jumped from 3,750 to 6,000. And the idea was that there were just some small cities, and frankly, I think Richmond and Berkeley are like maybe just to compare 4 to 5 times larger, let's say, than El Cerrito and Hercules. So, but their dues are not 4 to 5 times larger. So that was why it was all a balance. I think there was no magic, So Hala, it was just a balance.
Inflation.
But I mean, I don't know. It's up to others. The idea was starting small, but again, what Richmond's 110,000, El Cerrito's 25,000, but so there was a lot of discussion over. We're not totally basing it on exact equal formulas, but trying to be general, and that the small cities were at the 3. I'm given. I mean, 3,000, 3,200. Obviously, the small cities can comment. I'm fine with the 3, but if the small cities want to pay more, hey, we'll take the money.
No, I know this was the product of a lot of back and forth, financial realities, the size of not just the population, but the population within the fire district. So there was quite a lot of back and forth on this. I think we can certainly begin the conversation for 2027 dues, which is a separate issue because next year there might be changes on who serves on this body and various electeds and city managers, administrators. So we might want to wait for that conversation until the end of this year, or the latter half of this year. But I would support this just because I know it was, for example, it was Oakland should contribute closer to the county, but not the county, but more than Pinole. So it was a lot of back and forth. And I think if any city would like to offer more as a donation, we'd obviously accept that. But I would prefer to stick to, what's here for now.
I think Berkeley and Richmond are getting the best deal here. That's just.
We can change that for 2027. Okay, there's a motion and a second. And is there other public comment online?
Let me see. I see no public comment online. And just as a point of clarification, who seconded the motion? Okay, thank you.
Did I make the motion? I guess I did. Okay. And I added Kensington at 3,000.
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain. All right. The item 6 passes. And now we will move to Zone 0, where Susan will give an update on the State Board of Forestry draft rules. Zone 0 regulations from the state are finally coming down.
So at the meeting in March, I reported on the proposed State Board of Forestry Subcommittee on Zone 0 proposed regulations. I will go through them very quickly again to update you on what those are. They're definitely a weakening of what we as a group wanted to see. So what the State Board of Forestry Subcommittee is recommending is a safety zone that is dependent on the measurement of the eaves of your structure with a minimum of 1 foot. So it could be 1 foot, but if your eaves are 2 feet, it would be 2 feet. And if your eaves are 3 feet, it would be 3 feet, whatever. It's very individual to the structure. But there's an immediate non-combustible safety zone of 1 foot. And then from whatever that zone is to 5 feet has different regulations. So they split the 5 foot zone. There's a low combustibility area that makes up the rest of the 5 feet. And they are prohibiting in that area bark mulch and wood chips, dead leaves and pine needles, firewood, combustible fencing attached to homes, trellises and combustible gates, vegetation under decks, and debris accumulation on roofs and gutters. And this is basically just home maintenance that we're talking about. The emphasis was on reducing ember ignition immediately adjacent to the structure within that 1 foot zone. So one of the biggest challenges was what vegetation to permit. There was a lot of pushback. And so if they meet the maintenance and spacing requirements, they will allow low herbaceous plants, succulents, ground covers, small separated plant groupings, maintain turf grass, and potted plants in non-combustible containers that have to be moved during red flag conditions. Trees could remain with conditions. The proposal didn't require wholesale tree removal, but you do have to remove dead wood, eliminate ladder fuels, pruning away from roofs and chimneys, and limbing up for vertical clearance. The subcommittee proposed a gradual rollout, immediate application for new construction, but multi-year compliance for existing homes. They want to focus primarily on education and outreach rather than on penalties and citations, which I think we probably all agree with. The good thing is that the April draft also gave local governments and fire agencies some discretion to tailor implementation based on lot size, topography, neighborhood density, existing vegetation conditions. And these regulations apply in both the state responsibility areas and the local responsibility areas of the state. The earlier drafts, which we supported, were criticized as being too rigid and ecologically disruptive. The revised version still prioritizes ember resistance, but acknowledged practical landscaping realities and homeowner concerns. We don't know when they'll be meeting again to finalize these regulations. They'll either be meeting in late June or sometime in July. I think off the record, they probably will want to delay this as long as possible because it's been so controversial and it will have an impact on the November election. So they're dragging. We have drafted a letter in support of the stricter regulations. And John, do you want to come up and deal with that?
And it's on
The
page
letter,
26 of your packet, if you're on the online packet, if you're.
Yeah, so the letter is in your packet. I don't have page numbers.
27.
Page 27.
I have 26. 26.
We would like to send this to the State Board of Forestry Subcommittee members. So I believe it's on the agenda for approval by the board. I want to say that, interestingly, I just, because of all the chatter on Nextdoor, there's this myth that Orinda doesn't have any regulations. So I actually went to look, and actually Orinda has some pretty stringent regulations, but they're different than Berkeley's regulations. They're doing a 2-foot non-compostable zone, has nothing to do with the size of the eaves. It's just 2 feet. However, if you have a Monterey pine or a eucalyptus within 5 feet of any structure, you have to remove that tree. That's a pretty big ask because some of those trees are very large and it's very expensive to move them. So every jurisdiction is doing something slightly different, which is good because we all have different needs and challenges. In Berkeley, our challenges are so great that we're going to stay with the 5-foot zone as a best practice. And I think some of our neighboring communities, certainly Oakland, parts of Oakland and Kensington, have exactly the same challenges, parts of El Cerrito as well. And so I would recommend that we talk about best practice, but that 5 feet being best practice. So I'll give you a moment to read over the letter and you guys can discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. If any of our fire chiefs have comments, not putting anyone on the spot about the proposed regulations, feel free to come up and share them, or we can also save that for future meeting.
And also, if the chair wants, I can put it on the letter on the screen too, if that's helpful.
That'd be great.
Good morning, Damon Covington, Oakland Fire Chief. We are doing a lot of work in Oakland. We have our climate fellows who are a little shy today, but they're doing a lot of Zone Zero work. We want to make sure that our community is aware of what Zone Zero means. You know, it's a lot of speculation out there about, you know, everyone has to remove every piece of vegetation from their home. So we want to make sure that we're not punishing our community, that we're allowing them to understand Zone Zero and the benefits of Zone Zero, not just the disadvantages of some of the alterations that need to be made. However, as Susan said, I think we should be coordinated in our efforts. And I think that's where this body can help our communities of Contra Costa County and Alameda County, so that we have one voice that we're using. If Zone Zero says it's going to be 2 feet, well, what can we tell our community about 5 feet or 2 feet? And then when it comes down to now we have to do inspections and we have to start handing out fines if people aren't doing it, what is our authority to enforce the rules? So we want to make sure that we're giving them the proper information and that we're unified in our voice across. While we all have different communities and different challenges, I think the messaging that we give across our counties can be the same. So that's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're basically, in short, thank you, Susan, for the very comprehensive summary and for tracking what's going on. You know, as a reminder, these regulations were ordered by the state legislator to come down in 2020, I believe. So this is a long time in the making, and there's still not something final. And interestingly, LA was one of the biggest voices in pushing back against the 5 feet, which is, I mean, surprising to some, not others, perhaps. But so what's the letter in front of you is an opportunity for us, if this body feels like doing so, to send a message to the state's Department of Forestry that the East Bay Wildfire Coalition continues to support the strongest option. Now, back when they were contemplating different options and soliciting public comment, we did send a letter advocating for the strongest option. So this letter continues that approach of, we, you know, hope that they change their mind and continue to implement what's data backed is the most effective way. But it is dependent on this body's interest in sending this letter, or we could wait till the regulations come out and then make a statement as well. So please feel free to share your comments on any of this. Shoshana, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say I think we should send this as soon as possible. And I want to appreciate the letter references science a number of times. And I think that's one of our strongest arguments. As far as I know, there's not a strong scientific basis for the proposed regulations. And the 5 foot Zone Zero is very much based in science. And I think it's also, it doesn't mention it in the letter, which I think is appropriate, but I just want to say for the purpose of this discussion that insurance also follows the science, right? So I think we have a very strong argument for that's, you know, the science is on our side and also the economics on our side. We can't really assert that. We don't have evidence, the right kind of evidence to assert that, but I think there's anecdotal evidence, and, you know, insurance companies, they care, they can do the math and they look at the science. So this is a powerful letter, and I do support sending it.
Jared, could you scroll down so we see the whole letter? Thank you. If I may. So, yeah, I just wanted to ask for all the names of the government, local governments to be included to give more weight?
Oh, of course, that's on our letterhead. Everyone's
Awesome.
logos. And,
Thank you.
yeah, this was just the draft, which John and Susan helped put together with, but the full version has everyone's names and logos.
Should I make a motion?
Sure, sure. And then we'll finish member comments, go to public comment. Yes.
I have a question. So if we are going to put all of our different agencies on the letter, do I need to get my board to support this? Or is it just me? Like I will say personally, I am all in favor of this letter. I completely support it.
Okay.
I was appointed in my position right after the LA fires. And, that I consider this like a key thing that I want to do. And my seat's up in November, and I don't mind being on record as saying I'm completely for this. And if anyone doesn't like that, they have that information. So that's me, but I just wonder, do I need my board?
You already have the authority to represent them.
Yeah.
You have the authority, but we will make sure our letterhead includes your logo as well, which the previous version did not. So we will update that. Okay. We will go to public comments.
Yeah, any speakers for public comments?
Yes, Henry De Niro, Berkeley Fire Safe Council. So I would strongly recommend trying to move toward a common Zone 0 code for the East Bay Hills for the coalition. The one Berkeley is currently using for Ember in the WUI is a good model for that. It is science-based. There is some flexibility with what is allowed within the 5 feet. And there's a process where actual firefighters, not inspectors, go make exceptions to extend Zone 0 to allow a plant within the 5-foot zone by expanding around the plant to create a new 5-foot zone. So there is a process in place. I'd recommend starting with that and then having the coalition see if we can get all the fire chiefs on board. You do have the authority to have a stricter code than the state ends up with. The second comment is CAL FIRE shrank the very high and high severity fire zones in their most recent mapping. I think I understand why, but it's not relevant here. It's not based on good data and good science. I'd recommend all the cities in the council go back to the earlier very high and high severity fire zones to implement vegetation management codes. Then you have the authority to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Sue Duncan from El Cerrito Fire Safe Council, and we do support your letter and hope that you will send it. Thank you.
Great.
Seeing no speakers on Zoom.
I would like to bring up a point about public perception of CAL FIRE and regulations. They think those maps increase their insurance rates. Insurance companies have their own maps. California Department of Insurance has published a list of zip codes. I'll share it with you, Jared, so you can share it with others, so you can share with the community. So I think one of the things we need to do is raising public awareness about how insurance rates are determined, have nothing to do with our wildfire safety efforts.
Thank you. And just to add on to that, Oakland, for example, we adopted our old maps last year after we were not happy with the state maps cutting out districts that in neighborhoods that quite literally burnt down in 91. So I know that's a choice that different cities can make to keep their old maps or change them. But I think at the end of the day, our coalition's focus, regardless of what the state puts down, is educate and encourage voluntary adoption of the 5 feet. And our next item, which was the public information campaign, will aid in that. So, okay, thank you for sharing support for this letter. We will make sure everyone's letterheads and names are on it and go ahead and send it. And share a final copy with everyone if anyone wants to share it out on their own networks, that this is a statement this body is making. Councilmember, you want to make the motion?
Yes. I move that we send this letter.
Second.
Oh. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining. All right. This item passes and we will share an update when the letter is sent. Moving on to item 8, an update on our public information campaign. John will take over. Just as a reminder, at our last meeting and the meeting before that, we discussed using a sizable amount of our budget to launch a public education campaign and to contract with some consultants to help with the research and a lot of the groundwork and strategic communications behind that. So please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. John Kaufman, acting as staff for this organization. The chair summarized what's really happened. The next step is to work with our fiscal agent, which has the legal authority to move forward, because we are not an agency of government. We are operating under an MOU. So our fiscal agent really is in the role of moving this forward. And Chief Bachman, do you want to give us a little update on where things stand?
Good morning. So our finance department is finalized a sole source document that we're proceeding to try and go in contract with at the recommendation with Mercury Consulting for the amount of $50,000. It's broke out in the packet at $42,000 and $8,000 for two different scope of works or phases in the project. There was also some discussion about we may have a little bit of money left in our Contra Costa County Coordinator grant that we could use for some additional social media work. Usually whenever we do a contract, we always allow some cushion or a little bit of overage. So should we want to add additional, we have that ability to. So we're planning on proceeding with the 50,000 request with, usually we do a 15 or 20% increase if additional funding is available or the scope, additional scope is added. But unless there's a different recommendation today, that's how we were gonna proceed.
Okay, great. Are there questions? Well, so I will start with a quick question. Thank you for letting us know about approving that $50,000 that this body had recommended to go to Mercury for this proposal. How soon might the contract be executed with them so that they could start work?
Once the sole source request is approved at the county, usually the signatures occur within about a week. My understanding, legal's already reviewing the contractor. It'll just be a simple form contract that the county comes up with. So that portion should be relatively quick. But the sole source piece is the next step that we're waiting on.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman.
Thank you, Chief Bachman. Quick question. So is it just for the content or outreach too? Excuse my ignorance.
That's really outlined in, I'd have to refer to John. We're just proceeding forward with that proposal that was approved at the last meeting, which broke it out as 42,000 for the one piece of scope and then 8,000 for the other. We typically always add a little bit of cushion should changes need to be made that we don't have to go back and modify the contract, knowing that this body has approved 50,000. That proposal is how the contract's being written. The additional is just should anything come up in the next year, we'd have a little bit of cushion to add a few more items.
Thank you. And
Councilmember, I will just reiterate from the last meeting, there was a proposal on, it was not focused on the outreach. That was part 2. They would come up, they would do the research, some focus groups, understanding of the landscape to then draft a strategic communications plan and they would begin some outreach and some educational content, but it could also be used as a framework to then go and ask for bigger pots of funding to amplify this. We amended the proposal at the last meeting because several of us wanted a little more action-oriented items, not just research, but that part is important as well. So we kind of settled on this with their agreement to produce some video content, some written content that we can use as well. But if there's questions about the proposal, maybe John, you can, if you're comfortable answering them, we can also go back to that as well.
Yeah, no, I think you've outlined the plan moving forward. Frankly, this initial contract for $50,000 plus additional funds is really to get the ball rolling, to really do a comprehensive outreach to people. You know, the goal is not just to get materials out to people. Our goal is really to get homes hardened, to get defensible space created. That's really the goal. And to do that, we really need a major outreach program. So what I'm thinking of, what the proposal is really to put together the plan and what the outreach program should contain. It is not really to implement it beyond some very basic initial outreach in the way of videos or other material, just to demonstrate what we want to do. But if we're talking about a comprehensive communications and public outreach campaign to reach the vulnerable homeowners in the hill areas, primarily where the high fire danger exists, we're talking about a lot more than $50,000 or $70,000. And so the purpose of this plan is to lay the groundwork for an appeal to the state, to private insurance companies, to anyone else that feels an investment in the community to help us out. So long range, you know, we're talking multiples of the $50,000 or $70,000.
Thank you. One more question. Is there like, would Chief Bachman go over the content? Some fire officials, some experts would verify the contacts and to make sure it's accurate, it's sufficient, and, you know.
Absolutely. You know, our whole point of view is we need to be science-based, as we talked about with the letter that we just agreed to send. So we need to be science-based, which means we need to turn to our fire officials whose job it is to set those standards. So we need to include those voices very much in the process of developing messaging.
Thank you very much. So basically, they just prepare the messaging and formats, and then it's up on us to distribute it.
Plus some initial outreach. Yes.
Excellent.
And one thing we would need to get, and that's included in our planning grant, is what kind of materials would be most helpful to the local organizations. Is it videos, or is it printed materials for use in public meetings? You know, my own experience is that we need to do all of the above. We need to sit down with people in a meeting and explain what we're talking about. Otherwise, people really freak out. They don't want to be told the government is saying this, telling us what to do. That's not going to cut it. It has to be a cooperative effort. And we've seen in places where outreach has begun that we don't want to put public officials at risk for doing what's right. We need to develop a public information campaign that will give people the information they need and help them to come to the right conclusion, making resources available so that people understand what's involved.
Thank you.
I just want to add that you all know your constituency better than anybody. And what you think you need to reach them is critical to the success of what we do. So we really need you to think about, what do you want? And in the best of all worlds, what we would do is create a toolbox for each of you to use that would contain materials and not just one, like not just one video or one handout, but a whole series of materials that you would be able to use with your constituency.
Thank you. And that brings me to the action side of this item. Thank you very much for the update. The last handout that you got is a proposed chair's discretionary budget. So one of the things with this Mercury proposal that we will get, in addition to the strategic communications plan, there will also be some content that we are going to be able to share on our own channels, to distribute, written materials to distribute at town halls and neighborhood meetings, but also notably social media. So, as you know, this body does not have the capacity at the moment, maybe when all the dues come in, but we do not have the capacity to hire full-time staff. So the way I've been thinking about both the ability to have a press release, a system to disseminate press releases, social media platforms, updates to our website is via interns. So the chair's proposed discretionary budget, it includes a couple of other items as well, some funding for Zoom webinar capacity, a couple of social events a year, printing costs, and social media website, which is the one related to this item. If you have recommended amendments, feel free to let me know. But this is what I put together to be able to use what we get in this and as deliverables from this contract to actually. It's not going to be comprehensive. We don't have printing capacity with these materials for, tens of thousands of our constituents, but it would help get the ball rolling as well. Being able to pay for some social media work, a little bit of, boosts and a couple of ads on there as well, as a very initial budget, and also a platform for us to disseminate press releases in a more official way than just a massive listserv. So, yes.
So appreciate you doing this. I don't want to micromanage it. So I think we just provide direction. It's at 9,500. It can just say up to $10,000, and I don't want to micromanage how much in each of these items. I think the idea is to be flexible. This is a small amount. So I'm prepared just to, at the right time, make a motion to say at $10,000 with these general expenditures without attaching dollar amounts to these individual expenditures to give flexibility to you as the chair. I think it's sort of a waste of time to micromanage all of this. So I'm prepared to support this.
Thank you.
I second that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this budget. I just want to make sure that this budget is included in our dues already. You expect us to up the dues to then divide the 10,000 by the members?
No, this is already included, and this is money we have this is not waiting for more cities to pay in. This is, and one of the attachments, it says how much money we have at the moment. So this would be
So I think it was like 90,000.
Yeah.
In our budget. Okay.
And 50,000 would go to Mercury. This is this 10,000 is the only other cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just say for the record, I have some skepticism about the power of social media here, but if other people are, if there's other support for this, I won't object, but I'm not personally, I'm skeptical. I'll just say that.
Is there any public comment or?
Do you have any other folks from the audience for public comment?
Sorry, 1 second. A supervisor.
Thank you. Just a clarification, and forgive me if this was covered and I missed it. So this will enable, so we have a website, and thank you also for stepping into the chair position for Jared. I assume that you're going to be taking on additional work to carry this out, and I appreciate that. I assume that, we've got our website. Will the social media that we're doing also be branded through our coalition, or will we be doing that as sort of individuals through our own social media?
Right. The goal of the stipends to have folks actually help us with the social media is to have an East Bay Wildfire Coalition independent platform with the branding. But I also envision situations where we want to collaborate with CAL FIRE, with some of the other fire districts on informational content. If, for example, the Contra Costa Fire District has a separate educational video that they want to put out, we can collaborate with them to help expand reach. And I think anything, if there's interest from members wanting to support, uplift the work as well, I think that would be helpful. But I envision this as not a message from one city or one county, but a region, which, again, it's someone's message from their own city council member might be, oh, this is just political. But when you think about a message being sent by a regional body, it's, oh, maybe there's some science and data backing this. I think because we're so new, there's the opportunity to be an even more trusted body than just our local government, which may or may not have that same newness or respect. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's terrific. And if there are opportunities to think through earned media and leverage any hooks that exist, including the various months that promote wildfire awareness or preparedness, I think that would be great too. So we have another channel to reach people.
Absolutely. And that's part of the goal once we have the distribution platform to send out official press releases. That's something that we would want to help get that earned media as well. And if anyone has connections to local TV stations or networks, if anyone wants to write an op-ed, these are all ways that we can all amplify what will be created, and then a link to the website, a link to our social media to continue the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together. And, I really appreciate your comment about the social media, because the people that we were discussing before, very low income homeowners, tend to be very older, much older, 65. I shouldn't say really old, but 65 and above. And we have a pretty large population of people, and they're not really, they're not social media users. And so I like the proposal from Supervisor Joya to keep it flexible, because I think we have, we're unfortunately split. There's like all these young homeowners that really prefer the social media, but we have a group of people that really don't use it at all. So I'm hoping that we can just balance our audiences and the kind of media that we use to reach out to them.
Absolutely. And I will say that our $50,000 contract to Mercury is not social media. That's kind of everything else. This is, small pots of money, a few $100s here and there within a discretionary 10K budget to help get that started. I think all of our experiences are different. I've actually noticed that my engagement on TikTok does really well with the 50+ category. I run into people every day who are not the demographic I think they are on TikTok. And so sometimes the world's changing, and it does surprise me. Nothing beats in-person communication. So if we're trying to change hearts and minds about Zone Zero, absolutely nothing beats us going in person to a town hall, to a neighborhood meeting, talking about why this works. And I think that's where the big $50,000 is going into putting in. But there's lots of things that can amplify that. The number of times I've shared that CAL FIRE video that shows a live burn of one house with Zone Zero and then them igniting the fire, compared to the second house where Zone Zero is not implemented and that structure burns immediately. Sometimes visuals are very striking. And so social media is a platform to distribute it, but so are emails, so are text messages and WhatsApp groups, and however people receive that information. It's one tool of many, because the world is changing and people get their information differently.
I'm a big believer in trial and error. Try stuff, see if it works. So that's why I think I am comfortable with the social media spending. In just like, we will come back and see what the results are, see where we're effective. I also do agree with you when you say in person. There's nothing like in-person contact with people. I'm a walking tour guide, and maybe we want to do some walking tours where we could go and look at some examples of where we have our risks and how people are mitigating them. That could be a very effective way to, it's not going to be a gigantic number of people, but it's going to affect them in a profound way.
And I'll just add that as long as the material is ready for all of us to distribute in various ways and various platforms to reach our constituents, that's what we need. So, the county and the city of Pinole, we have a cable TV where the older generations in the city still subscribe to, the cable networks that carry cable TV. So that's a way to get to help get the message out.
Okay, we can move to public comment.
There is a huge amount of already produced materials that are available. I've been cruising around the web looking at stuff. And there are national fire agencies, there are state fire agencies, there are local fire agencies like the one I'm familiar with is Berkeley Fire. And we have already produced a huge amount of material, which I believe will be available to us to use. There's one video that I found that I thought was the most effective video I'd seen on Ember. I can send it to each of you. It's an animation, very easy to understand, very simple message. It's less than 3 minutes long. And I'm going to see if we can get permission to use it. I'm assuming since it's on the web, we can. But what I'm saying is that there already exists a tremendous amount of appropriate material that we can take advantage of. And one of the things maybe I can do is put together a list with links of what that material is so that you can start to use it immediately as we approach fire season. I think we're here actually already. Thanks.
And our coalition branded pages can share that out as well. And we can also put links to on our website. If there's particularly striking videos on YouTube, for example, that's already there, we can link it to the website while hours are still being created over the next few months.
Hi, Elizabeth Stage, Oakland Fire Safe Council. Speaking as someone who took a decade from when I retired to appreciate being called elderly, I was the chair of the Measure MM campaign, the ballot measure that is helping to Oakland to fund some of its vegetation management. And when I saw the voter lists so we could do the door hanging, several of you look as if you might have indulged in a little door hanging yourself, face to face, or get your message down to the size of a door hanger. Turns out that the eligible voters in Oakland, at the time we pulled our lists, there were 22,000 eligible voters in the WUI, and it was almost completely bimodal. In other words, for every person like me, there was my neighbor who, a contemporary, has his daughter and granddaughter living in his home. So we've got a bunch of old people and a bunch of young people. And the complimentary campaign that we did, I'm big on newsletters. I don't know about you. Versus the social media. I'm on a video for our Measure E, another Oakland ballot measure, and the number of people who've told me that they've seen me on the video, I've never seen the video. So I think what all of you have said is correct. You know your constituencies. And my purpose in speaking to you now is to say, I know that my colleagues from the Fire Safe Councils have, as Susan Warncraft said, we have stuff already. We do work together. We're really looking forward to working with the consultants and the broader group of you, because I think we all get smarter that way. So I'm very hopeful that fire safe councils, and then for goodness sakes, the firewise communities are the heart of the community approach. So thanks very much.
Quickly, I just wanted to bring up an important issue with regards to effectiveness of the message. There is lecturer at Haas School of Business, Erica Peng, who initiated the Firewise community. She focuses on what messages people hear and what they want to deny. When the danger of wildfire is too much, their subconscious wants to deny it. She focuses on fight, freeze, flight, and I'll put her in touch with you. She has been helping a Stanford University research on this, and Cal Fire. Maybe she can help us with making our messaging more effective.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe they can connect with our consultants as well as they produce their plan and be an interview source for them.
Sure.
I'm going to call in Zoom user Chris Cullender to provide comments. I'm unmuting, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Chris Cullender. I'm a member of the Berkeley Fire Safe Council. At the Alameda County Emergency Preparation Fair, I learned something fairly interesting, which is that an older woman brought her grandson with her to use his cell phone to take pictures of QR codes, and to sign her up for a lot of emergency notifications. So I would suggest that some focus be made on reaching older people that way. That is, to have family events that invite specifically older people to bring younger people with their cell phones. That's it.
Thank you. If there's no other public speakers,
We have concluded with public speaking.
okay, then I think Supervisor Joya made a motion to approve 10,000, and
I'll second. And I want to apologize for saying people are old. I'm old myself.
all relative. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you. This item passes, and we look forward to updates from Mercury's campaign and see how they go. And I'm sure they'll contact us for interviews as part of their research. So moving on to item 9, CAL FIRE grant coordination. Councilmember Vana, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make it very brief. CAL FIRE has announced grants up to $950,000. The deadline is July 8th. The way it works is by reimbursement. Most fire safe councils don't have the budget for that. So what I'm suggesting is, first of all, because all the entities, local governments are here, I hope that our fire departments work together too. Maybe, I don't know, making shaded fuel breaks behind our communities together, one piece at a time. I would like to urge collaboration also between fire departments and fire safe councils. It's very important for fire safe councils to be able to apply for grants with the help of our cities and fire departments. They can do that. Moreover, so basically I'm asking East Bay Wildfire Coalition of Governments to urge our fire departments to collaborate together and with fire safe councils. Moreover, I would like to ask this body to authorize the chair to provide support letters to grant applicants. Thank you.
Couple things. One is, I do think I can't speak on the cooperation with fire safe councils. You would know that more. And we are told consistently at our fire district meetings that the fire agencies work together and talk on all of this. So I don't want to like be paternalistic and tell them they cooperate, because they've been cooperating for several years. And we can hear about whether they're cooperating with fire safe councils. I don't know, you may be doing that already, but I know they cooperate amongst each other. Some of us are on the boards for fire agencies, and they tell us that all the time. In terms of, I know fire safe councils are eligible to apply, fire districts, cities, all of that. How do we then, I'm just looking, if there's a bunch of competitive applications, well, we want to support all of them. So I don't know how we get into a situation, and just sort of a question, if all these agencies are applying, we can support them all. And at the same time, I don't want to see us sort of devouring each other, right? Agencies apply and for more money than that's available. How do the fire agencies sort of look at this when you're applying? Because I know, we're dealing with a common area, but there's unique areas in each fire district or city. How do you approach this now? Can you sort of maybe enlighten us on this? Because that'll help us in terms of how we can provide our strongest support to these applications, whether they're by a fire safe council or a fire district or a city.
Thank you for the question, Supervisor. Aaron McAllister, Fire Chief, Contra Costa County. We collaborate in multiple ways. There was a discussion earlier about codes and regulations in Zone 0. So our fire marshals meet regularly, and as much as possible, we want consistency at that level. So we don't have different communities and different rules of enforcement in different communities. We also collaborate through the County Fire Chiefs Association. We meet regularly where we cooperate on grant applications. The FEMA Assistance to Firefighters grant is open right now, and there's a conversation going on about what we can put in for regionally for a regional asset, and individually is our own organizations. We collaborate regularly through the mutual aid system. For example, the Contra Costa funded Measure X hand crew is available as a regional asset. So that's both in terms of fuel mitigation projects as well as emergency response. So not unusual to see that asset, even though it's Confire asset, outside of Confire territory, working in other communities on fuel mitigation or emergency response.
What about the work with the fire safe councils? You work with them when they're applying, or I don't know whether there's a number of fire safe councils. Yeah, and I don't know what goes on there in that sense.
All the local governments and fire safe councils can apply through our application portal.
I meant for this CAL FIRE grant. I mean, so in fact, so Haley, you're referring to the CAL FIRE grants. What are those grants for? These are all fuel break kind of grants? Yeah. And so how are you looking at with this particular grant, working together either with fire districts, fire safe councils to determine who applies for what, since we're not all competing against each other? How are you doing that?
I'm going to ask Chief Bachman to come up and talk specifically about the fire safe councils and whether or not we've been
right. And in this case, is there a strategy? I don't know as much about the grants that are being referred to. Is there a strategy to look at as a region how we're applying for these fuel break grants in a way that increases the likelihood we get grants?
I think there's some collaboration that happens between the agencies, and I'm going to let Chief Bachman cover the fire safe councils.
So I think what Soheil is referring to is the concern of, with the CAL FIRE grant specifically, it's a reimbursement. So you have to have the money to put up first, and then you get refunded. I'm not sure which fire safe councils are applying. I know Henry will probably speak on that here momentarily. But as far as how we're trying to decide where our next application is going to go is deciding what we think we have the best chance at getting funded and what have we not applied for. So there was some discrepancy on, should we apply again for the East Richmond Heights Shaded Fuel Break? Yeah. We actually have 3 applications out right now with different, with other grants and other funding sources to get that funded. So I believe we're going to probably apply for a different area, only because we wouldn't want to get awarded with one of our other 3 applications, and then
Right.
CAL FIRE, if they were to
Right.
award us, then we'd have to turn it down.
Right.
So it's trying to strategically decide where do you think you're going to have the best chance based on the high priorities. This year, CAL FIRE did say that they're going to put a high priority on maintenance work and fuel mitigation work.
Right.
There are other options that you can apply for planning and education, but you got to check on the box that it's not going to be Prop 4 funding. So you have to identify ahead of time. They did say you can apply for both. So you can apply for mitigation under Prop 4 and then go in and apply for education or planning. If an agency was going to do that, that might be the best place if you're going to collaborate or do a co-application, maybe with a Fire Safe Council. We have time to do that, but I know we're focusing on trying to identify where we're going to put in for our mitigation work. And that grant amount will be limited to $950,000.
Are all of these grants basically for, most of them are for doing work of fuel breaks, actually doing the fuel break work?
Yeah. Fuel reduction work. Yes.
Right.
They did say that was going to be their priority.
So who would actually be doing the work? We'd contract with the fire agency, we'd contract with someone. How would we do that?
So if you get awarded, it's our most recent one that we just completed was the Lafayette Walnut Creek Shaded Fuel Break.
Right.
And that's where you have to go out for RFP, you hire a contractor, you go out for RFP, you hire your CEQA consultant. They produce your PSA document,
right.
And then you proceed to do work. We did have Crew 12 assist with some cost match, keep us in line and stay in budget, but it's usually done by contracted work.
Right.
Through the grant.
Wouldn't these be grants that public agencies applying for? Maybe I'm trying to understand to what extent, because a fire safe nonprofit doesn't necessarily have the capacity to do all that work, right? I mean, they're good at education and community preparedness, but these are managing big projects. And I would tend to think that that a fire agency or a city or a county is going to be in a better position to manage a large fuel break project.
If I may, that's exactly the
point. Can I ask
point.
him to respond, and then I'd like to hear your response.
Say what you said is not contradicting what I said.
Right.
It's just paraphrasing what I said.
But what I wasn't sure is I want to make sure we're not competing, and I don't know who is best able to apply. Like, you know, I'll pick Kensington Fire Safe Council doesn't manage big fuel break projects, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Their fire agency does. So I'm just trying to understand who's best able to apply.
Basically, what we're asking for is collaboration, and which can start with more communication. For example, I didn't know you had applied for grants. The Fire Safe Councils Alliance are going to get together, see what needs to be done. What we do, we hear from the community. We'd like to be able to pass those concerns and requests to our fire department. So maybe just a bit of communication. So we learn what you've applied for with the maps, and we see if there are any neglected areas we can bring up to your attention. It's not that we want to apply and be granted. Okay. It's just more collaboration, coordination together. And for educational purposes, we may apply at smaller amounts. I don't know. We need to discuss it, but just asking for the communication doors and channels to be open among fire safe councils and fire departments at the regional level. And it is open with Chief Bachman, you're awesome. But in general, I'm asking for public awareness that this is the next step needs to be done. Fire safe councils are new, and we're learning our way as we move forward, and we need a bit of your help and guidance, and we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. It sounds like you will be working with fire safe councils to get their input as we look at which are the. I mean, you obviously know as agencies, you hear from the public, you hear from fire safe councils to hear what are the best projects, right?
Yeah, we'll be. We're definitely open to looking at that under the planning and education piece of are there possibilities we could partner with some fire safe councils to apply for that piece, because my understanding we can apply for both education and planning and still apply separately for mitigation, because we'd be applying for mitigation under Prop 4 funding, and then we'd be applying for planning and education under CCI.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up. question for Chief Bachman. The City of Pinole staff, Public Works, has given me a list of what they would like to apply for fuel mitigation. And I wanted just to make sure that they ask for funds for projects that would be most successful. And I'm just wondering if there's coordination between, we contract with Wildfire and Public Works to kind of guide them on what would be the most meaningful work to do. For instance, weed abatement, probably not, but fuel break mitigation, yes. So is that an option where you can coordinate with the city staff on what would be the most successful kinds of projects to apply for?
Yeah, we want to see a copy of their list of their proposal, because with the Measure X funding that we have, if it's something where it's going to be, let's say, a 5 or 7 acre project, we estimate most of those projects cost about $10,000 an acre. That's something we could handle locally with Measure X funding. If it's a larger project and it's 30, 40 acres at $10,000 an acre, now you're up to 300,000 or 400,000 plus your CEQA. That's definitely a project that's more suitable for a grant application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other member comments, we'll move to public comments on item 9.
Henry De Niro, Berkeley Fire Safe Council. So just to be clear on Fire Safe Councils, the Berkeley Fire, and I'm going to say these numbers carefully, the Berkeley Fire Safe Council, a nonprofit, has removed over 100 tons of understory fuel and has removed over 1,000 tons of hazardous trees from private property in the city of Berkeley. Fire Safe Councils are engaged in fuel removal, as are the cities. Do not think we are just community organizers. We actually do the work. This specific CAL FIRE grant is a fuel reduction grant, not fuel break. The Alliance of Fire Safe Councils, which are 5 councils, Oakland, Berkeley, El Cerrito, Kensington, and West Contra Costa, plus Claremont Canyon Conservancy, are in discussion to submit a series of coordinated grant applications covering the entire East Bay Hills west of the WUI. And this would be removing hazardous fuel from as many properties as possible. There are big issues with the CAL FIRE grant. It's a reimbursement grant that may be a knockout factor. And I just learned today they may require consents from each property owner before the grant application. That's a complete non-starter. The fact is the Fire Safe Councils are prepared to receive money, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and manage contractors to remove large quantities of hazardous fuel from the hillside, as the cities and their fire departments should also be doing. And we do work in coordination. We submitted a grant with the Berkeley Fire Department. Well, I'm sorry, we each submitted separate grants last year at CAL FIRE for fuel reduction, Berkeley Fire Safe Council and Berkeley Fire Department, for complementary purposes, not the same project. We were both denied, but we did work together and we supported each other's development and wrote each other support letters. So we do coordinate.
How do you handle the reimbursement issue?
I think it's a knockout factor in a large grant. We can't get $600,000 and do a work and then get paid for it. It's just not possible.
Right.
So we have to research that. We may not apply, but right now we're talking about submitting 6 grants geographically from Oakland through West Contra Costa to basically remove hazardous fuel from the East Bay Hills, which is the top priority other than home hardening and zone 0. That's priority number 3. So we have to try to find ways to do it.
So maybe just to follow up, so ask the same question as I asked Fire. So we don't compete against each other. We should be working with Fire because, and maybe sometimes there may be a role for the Fire Safe Council that is something other than the fuel removal. So there could be joint applications. It's all about positioning these applications so that we get them. And cooperation is better than competition.
Absolutely. So, for example, for fuel removal, I'll speak a specific. Last year, we were going to remove eucalyptus trees from private property in Berkeley, and the fire department was going to remove fuel from evacuation routes in Berkeley. So we both applied to the same grant. CAL FIRE. We both described each other's strategy. We said they're complementary, and we wrote support letters to each other, but they were separate grants. So they saw the fire department and the Fire Safe Council, and we had clearly talked to each other. So that's the kind of co-op, we don't have to have a combined project, but it has to be a complementary, coordinated project.
Thank you.
Okay, so as far as the action item goes, when it comes to support letters, as chair and vice chair, I'm sure that we would be happy to author letters of support on a as needed basis. If a fire district, fire department comes to us and says or a fire safe council comes to us and says, hey, we'd like a letter. I'm sure we would be happy to amplify that request. If it's helpful, write it, send it to CAL FIRE. I've written letters before in Oakland for CAL FIRE grants, and I think a regional body maybe will be looked favorably. So if that helps, I would, I'm sure we'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
So I think the action on this item is authorizing chair and vice chair to author letters of support when requested by a fire agency or a fire safe council. And I will make that motion.
Or could it include a city?
Yes.
Yes. Likewise, the city cooperating with the fire agency, right?
So move.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining. All right. This passes. Thank you, Councilmember, for bringing this item forward. I think that was a fruitful discussion and highlighting the importance of collaboration. All right, we're towards the end of our meeting. Board member, I'll list a few items that I think that has come up as future meeting agenda items. We definitely, if not the next meeting, sometime this year, want to have a structured discussion on evacuation routes and sharing best practices. At our next meeting, it would be great if we can do a member share out on 4th of July, if there's any things that worked well in your city to curb incidences of wildfire, closed roads, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be following up on legislation, tracking the ones that were discussed today, as well as efforts for new ideas. And again, if anyone is interested in joining a legislative subcommittee, please let me know. And also whether or not you want to join the subcommittee, but if you want to join on an advocacy trip to Sacramento, please also let me know. And we will continue, and then we will continue the item on dues as per discussed today, although that is approved, but we always will have an informational item until all the dues have been paid. Other items for future meetings or other board member comments?
Thank you. I think those are great. I would also like to make sure that in either as a separate item or as part of evacuation, to talk about the no parking on high fire danger days. You have 2 years of pilot information.
Thank you. And if there's anyone from your cities that you would like to be part of a discussion on parking on red flag days and evacuation routes, those are kind of tied in, that you'd like someone to present from your region, please let me know. Other agenda items or other board member comments?
I have a board member comment. I attended two forums. One was sponsored by Senator Grayson in Lafayette, and it was a really informative meeting. He talked about legislation that he was promoting. We had a presentation regarding civic fellows helping jurisdictions, and it's something that we may want to think about in the future for this organization is to, when we have the capacity to support having a fellow help us with our work, something in the future to think about. And then, of course, our own Chief Bachman gave us a presentation on some of the mapping that they've been doing on some of their mitigation and fuel breaks. The other item is that I attended an all-day land use planning for wildfires in California. It was attended by a number of land use planners throughout Northern California and Cal Fire. And we had a really good discussion on items like the mapping and why some of the mapping designations had been changed. I had asked that specific question about how come, one area that was previously a very high fire severity zone is now just high fire. And the answer was technology, having better technology to pinpoint what the vegetation was in those specific areas. And I did share the meeting packet with our chair and with Jared, and that could be available to the members. Also, there is one of the slides in the presentation has a number of links to educational material that we could possibly share on our website. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.
So I attended that meeting by Senator Tim Grace, and it was awesome. One thing was interesting was that the city of Orinda was facing a lawsuit by its residents for lack of planning for evacuation, and they were working on it. I found it very interesting. So heads up, cities, let's do our work before we face a lawsuit. The other thing is, maybe everybody knows, it was new to me, that Confire has a helicopter. That's great news. I believe East Bay Regional Parks has one. East Bay Mud has one. It's good to pass the word to East Bay Mud doesn't? Okay, sorry, East Bay Mud doesn't. Just East Bay Regional Park District. Thank you, Chief McAllister. And Confire, and it just gives peace of mind to the public. And we hope we can have one helicopter at May 30th evacuation drill to show off to the public and just give them that peace of mind that authorities are thinking about things and, preparing all the equipment necessary for facing wildfires. Thank you.
Really great. Thank you. Supervisor.
Thank you. I just got a note from my staff that the Alameda County dues check was mailed, and we believe it was deposited and cleared last week. So
excellent.
Hopefully you can cross us off the list.
Thank you. Great news. Okay, then we will move to public comment for, actually before that, just a couple of things before public comment and adjournment. Firstly, thank you for, thank you for a very fruitful discussion today on a number of items. We'll try to start off every meeting with a similar, something that residents would like to share out. Next meeting, we'll start with the July 1st share out discussion. As soon as we adjourn, if members could stand over there for a group photo, that would be great. And finally, again, if you're interested in the subcommittees or advocacy trip, let me know. Our next meeting will actually be in Oakland. El Cerrito wasn't available on the day on July 22nd. Same time, just different locations. We'll share instructions and nearest parking garages. And thank you, everyone. Let's move to public comment.
Sorry to keep getting up. Two more quick items. SB 131 passed. The city of Berkeley has filed a notice of exemption, an NOE, to remove hazardous fuel, including trees, within 200 feet of structures. This does not require an EIR. It's filed, it's done. The city can now remove eucalyptus trees, Monterey pine, Italian cypress, whatever, within 200 feet of homes, which is virtually every house in Berkeley. It can also push money to the Fire Safe Council, and we can remove trees without regard to CEQA. It has been passed. So I would encourage every city to file an NOE under SB 131, and there's a box to check. The box is remove hazardous fuel within 200 feet of structures. You will need your city attorney. It's a 4-page form, but an attorney has to look at it. And I'm virtually sure the city of Berkeley will assist any city in filing an NOE under SB 131. The money is a separate issue, but getting this filed clears the way to remove fuel without regard to CEQA. Secondly, good news, just a final update. We have long identified the line of fire as the single worst hazard in the city of Berkeley. It's the boundary between the UC properties and the Berkeley Hills coming out of Tilden Park. It's a fire pathway modeled by Chief Winokur and Xyloplan. It's a major pathway that comes out south of the golf course and down this open land right into the heart of the city. The university has just removed over 1,000 trees from the upper part of this pathway. We are going to remove 25 trees from the bottom of the pathway with money from the city now that we have SB 131. Berkeley Lab is working on getting final clearance to remove 25 or 30 trees from its side of the bottom of the pathway. So we're trying to make this pathway tree-free so we won't have a canopy fire in the pathway. You'll still have a grass fire, but you have a chance of defending a grass fire coming out of Tilden Park down this pathway. So we are making progress on major strategic threats to the city of Berkeley. Thank you.
Hi, Gary Prost, El Cerrito Fire Safe Council. I was just wondering if any police or fire department has considered, with regard to enforcement of 4th of July laws, using drones to fly over and monitor where the fireworks are coming from, and then maybe take a photograph of the property or even the participants, and then use that to follow up with fines and other enforcement. Thank you.
I wanted to remind you that for the next meeting, we have tentatively scheduled Mark Brown from the Marin Wildfire Authority to come and do a presentation for us. It hasn't been confirmed, but I've been in communication with him about it. And so we may have him on the agenda.
Talking about Marin County, they do Ember Stump. I've never been to those events, but I hear a lot from the residents. Apparently, it's a great educational fair. Maybe we want to learn from them. So if you could ask them to give us some hints so we can get this started regionally, on a similar public safety fair. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Good morning. Luke Otterstead with Brush Pros Defensible Space Clearing. Just heard about this meeting and wanted to find out about what's being done about Zone Zero primarily because we like to inform our the customers we serve what the new regulations are. So just a humble suggestion would be in that outreach component, don't overlook the defensible space contractors that are the ones that are informing a lot of residents. Residents will just contact us and just say, hey, I don't know what's needed, just I want to be in compliance. And so I'm willing to come here and do the research and everything, but some proactive outreach to contractors would be helpful. Thank you.
I think certain kinds of contractors are on the list of outreach for Mercury. It was in their proposal. So hopefully folks do get some communication by them. Okay, is there any Zoom comment?
Just any calling in any last speakers either in the room or on Zoom.
If anyone's interested in why CAL FIRE shrunk their maps, I think Jerry Kent and I figured it out. We can do that after the meeting. And it is not advanced science.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Well, thank you, everyone. The meeting's adjourned, and please remember to come forward for a photo. Thank you.